Good morning, my name is James Cook and welcome to my vlog. Today I want to talk about my long-suffering car. Now, I've had my car for quite a while now. I was actually lucky enough to invest a few pounds into Tesla shares back when they were only $35 a pop, and I then sold them far too early and bought my car. And it turned up on the 29th of June, which was 2014 this is. So, what is that? Almost 8 years ago. Oh my word. And I have done a fair few miles in it now. 150,000. We'll continue this in a second. I'm actually just going to get V's son Freddie from preschool. And then I've got to drive, put in another 150 odd miles on my car to go get Jasper from his school. The question is, after all those years and all those miles driven, how do I feel about it? Was it a good idea? Has the car lived up to the expectations that I set for it when I was initially placing my order? So when I originally decided to buy this car, I mean look, I spent 65 grand on it and I am not somebody who spends £65,000 on a car. So, you know, there was some rationalising that was required to get me there. And in this particular case, it was all to do with the longevity of EVs, the simplicity of the drivetrain, just sort of good stuff like that, and obviously the cheapness of the fuel, or electricity in this case. You know, that makes a really big difference. How have those sort of assumptions panned out? Well, that is the question I will answer, hopefully whilst I'm waiting to pick Jasper up from his school. But first I need to get through the traffic and get over there. So I'm here at Jasper's school now. I've got about half an hour or so before I have to go in and get him. So let's give you a proper update on the car. Oh my goodness, my eyes. I'm gonna have to just hang on a minute. Sunglasses. Ugh. Hay fever is a nightmare as well, by the way. Over the years, I've done a lot of vlogging and I've had a lot of varied experiences, and most of them have involved the car in one way, shape or form. I've done a variety of driving. I've done motorway driving, countryside, up to Scotland, down to Newquay, across Europe, although I only did that once, but it was really good fun. I've used the car in a variety of temperatures, although this country the temperatures don't swing around quite as much as they do in some, but you know, we've had weeks where it's 30 plus. It was a lot more than that when I took the car to Italy, and obviously I've had cold winters here, you know, below freezing, snow on the road. That's only happened a few times, but it's been a bit exciting considering this is a rear-wheel drive car. And I've clocked up a fairly whopping 150,000 miles. Actually, at the moment, 154,511. Yeah, that's how long I've been meaning to make this video. Sorry, it's supposed to be a 150,000 mile, you know, sort of milestone video. And yeah. Anyway, I'm doing it now, that's what counts. And in that time, Teslas have changed an awful lot. You know, when I bought this car, there was no autopilot, didn't exist, just a twinkle in Elon Musk's eye. There were no all-wheel drive cars. It was rear-wheel drive. You had a choice of a 85 or a 70, or I think it was at 60 and a 40 pack originally, but they never actually made any real 40s. You know, a lot has happened. You couldn't play games or make silly fart noises either when it first came out. When I got the car, I prepaid for a sort of a service pack, whatever it was called at the time, which meant that it basically came with 4 services, one every 6 months. And once I'd used up those services, I've not been that great at getting it serviced, I'm going to be honest with you. It's been more like sort of a service every 2 or 3 years, as and when I feel like it. And that's basically driven by the fact that Tesla said, you know, look, we're not going to wipe the warranty out if you don't get the car serviced. So I figure if they're comfortable with the fact that it doesn't have to be serviced, then I will get it serviced when I feel it needs a service. Now, as with any vehicle over that length of time and that many miles, some things have been a pain. For example, I've had a load of accidents, which are a particular pain in an electric vehicle, because you go from having a car that is essentially not far off free to drive to suddenly having one that costs you hundreds of pounds a month you weren't expecting. I mean, I hit a deer on the way back from the south coast a few years ago, and the end result was I was driving a Smart for 4. This thing cost me like a couple £100 a month, and it's like the tiniest petrol car you can get. I was not happy. Annoyingly enough, deers don't have insurance, and I didn't have the courtesy car option ticked, so I just had to make do with what the body shop had, which was a smart car. Going a little bit further back in time, I've also had quite a lot of little sort of warranty things, little niggly things. Like after 40,000 miles, I decided that the rear drivetrain was maybe making a bit more noise than I was expecting, and that was back when Tesla had found quite a few drivetrains had got noises that they were making as they'd aged that people weren't expecting. So I mean, I don't really know if I had a problem or not, but either way, Tesla replaced the whole sort of rear axle drivetrain for me, so it's awesome. I had an LED bulb go in the lights that go across the top at the back. It's quite annoying. And obviously, I've had 3 of my 4 door handles needing fixing. One got a replacement unit, the other 2 got rewired in a sort of a better wire routing way that should hopefully last a bit longer. And one of them is still hanging on in there, amazingly enough. Something else that was a challenge to begin with, but of course now doesn't seem to be any kind of an issue at all, is finding chargers. It used to be a massive problem. You'd literally have to go, right, I want to go from here to there, it's a few hundred miles away, I need to plan it out, and you'd take sort of half an hour to make sure that you know which chargers you're going to go to, and if that one's not working, you've got somewhere else you can go. And these days, it's an entirely different world. So much better, I can't tell you. And there's just 2 more little things which I've sort of found slightly annoying. One of them is that because it's an aluminium car, it can be more difficult and expensive to find a body shop that can fix sort of simple problems. Like I had some golf ball sized hailstones, put a bunch of dents all over the bonnet, and that was, I mean, I did get a sort of, you know, paintless dent repair guy to come along with his tool and push them out, and this guy was very skilled and he managed it, but a bit touch and go with aluminium because it's a bit more flexible than steel, and it can just be harder to work with, and typically tended to be used on more expensive cars, which obviously means that you tend to end up going to more luxury body shops, which can be more expensive. And that can affect your insurance premiums, of course. And the other thing that I found slightly annoying about this car, and this is something that unfortunately is probably never really going to go away, it's a big car. It's a very big car. There are width restriction roads in London that I can't fit between the bollards. There are many parking spaces that I take one look at and go, yep, that's not going to happen. The size is a plus because I do like throwing bikes in the back and taking loads of luggage with me when I go places, but the size is also a negative because it does make the car more difficult to handle on our tiny little European roads. So, do I feel it was worth it? Well, absolutely, basically. without mincing my words, I think it's been hugely cheaper than basically having almost any other car. It seems to have held its value quite well. The residual value, even with this kind of mileage on it, is not bad. And I've saved like 20 grand in fuel, I've saved money in servicing costs, and this is probably the biggest thing, actually, that I'm so chuffed with. When I bought the car, my assumption was that because it was so mechanically simple, it would not suffer from the usual thing that kills cars. Like all the previous cars that I'd owned, they'd get to a certain number of miles around the 120,000 mile mark, and at that point you were either going to be a mechanic that can work on the car yourself, or the car will become uneconomical to own. I had this with my 306. It, you know, was costing me a bunch of fuel, obviously every month, but it was also costing me a couple of £1,000 every year on exhausts or brake discs, or the steering wheels, you know, like the airbag light kept going on, there was a wiring loom problem, the radiator in the front was knackered, you know, there was a gasket problem that needed fixing. It just, so much stuff went wrong with that car. And it's all that mechanical stuff. Oh, the spark plugs need changing, the oil needs doing, you've got to service those things regularly. They're just expensive to own when they get old. So when I bought this, my hope was that it wouldn't suffer from that problem. And touch wood, it doesn't seem to have. There are obviously some things that are going to wear on this car like they will on any other, like things like suspension and, you know, not so much the brakes actually. I've had one set of brakes changed, and that was because they were corroded, not, you know, basically through underuse rather than worn out. So I was pretty happy with that. So would this car work for everyone? No, it wouldn't work for everyone, of course, but it certainly has worked for me. I've been really delighted with the way that it's aged like a fine wine. I still enjoy driving it, and it's been a reliable and faithful steed, and hopefully I'm just going to keep on driving it until it gets to that point where it becomes uneconomical to own, which for an EV, it could be a very long way down the line, hopefully. So as you can probably guess, I have got basically no plans to get a new car anytime soon. If I did, I would probably think a Tesla sounded like a good idea. After all, I've had very good experience with it so far. I found the service to be perfectly reasonable, you know, especially compared to other car companies. And I found the car to be very reliable, and critically, I found the technology in the car works very well. I like the way that they update it regularly. This car now is a substantially better car than the one that I originally bought almost 8 years ago. The infotainment screen has actually been updated, but even without the update, it worked a lot better. It's got features it didn't have before. It's got properly built-in route planning now, so I can add lots of different stops and sort of plan out my whole journey rather than sort of more basic, just I want to go here kind of navigation system. It's got different music options. It's got, you know, fun stuff, arcadey bits, the farty noises that, you know, kids love, obviously. I mean, yeah, it's been great, and it's got better with age, which is, I mean, what other car can you say that about? Amazing. Right, so I guess I'll give you guys another update, I don't know, in another 50,000 miles or something. Actually, one more thing I just wanted to quickly add. There are some things which are sort of, you know, like I said, some things do wear out. So the front latch, I used to be able to just double click the key at the front and it would pop up and you just lift it. And now it only pops up a bit, and then you have to kind of push it down and do it again, push it down a little bit, sort of halfway, double do it again, and then it will come up the whole way. So that latch is obviously a little bit worn somewhere. Also, the rear boot, it's got a power lift gate, and sometimes you press the button and it's almost like it kind of catches on itself a little bit and beeps and won't go up the whole way. Well, it only doesn't really go up at all. You've got to then lift it up. So yeah, there's a couple of little things like that. I've also got at the moment a low coolant level whenever I'm driving uphill, which I think that might be related to the fact that it needs a service. So it is booked in for one. It'll be going in a week or so's time, and hopefully that will clear up all of these issues. Okay, so the car has been serviced now, and these are the results. The vehicle coolant warning was actually a worn out valve in the cooling system, so that got replaced. The front latch, it's got sort of two things, like two bits, a first latch and a second one. This is the latch on the front, and they replaced the second one because that was sort of catching and failing and not working properly. The back power lift gate that sometimes kind of gets stuck and doesn't open, they couldn't actually find a fault. They couldn't get it to replicate, so I'm just going to keep using that and we'll see what happens. That one does seem fairly intermittent. Other than that, they've done the service and everything's fine with that. Replaced the battery in my key fob, and that's basically it. And they did all of that for the princely sum of 860 quid, which actually isn't that bad really when you consider that it had a full service as well included in there, plus sorting out and diagnosing these other issues. So yeah, that's pretty good. I didn't actually pay for this because handily enough I've got a bit of referral credit, so I put it on that. But even if I had paid for it, £860 when I'm spending that on this car every couple of years is really nothing to complain about, I don't think, when you've got 154,000 miles on the clock. But yeah, generally speaking, I am one very, very happy customer. And despite the fact that my Tesla shares would probably be worth about 700 grand now if I'd kept them, I don't care. I love this car. There's always something more you could have done that would be better. And, I am perfectly happy with my decision to buy this car. It has been a fantastic vehicle, and hopefully it will continue to be a fantastic vehicle for the foreseeable future.
Hello! I hope everybody's having a good time, a good day, and also, and I hope everybody's gonna have a good weekend. Goodbye!
Awesome. Well, I hope you've all enjoyed today's video. If you have, remember to leave a like and share it and subscribe if you haven't already. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter if you like. The links are in the description. Also want to say a massive thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. And I'll see you all in the next episode of my vlog. Bye!